It's like being a victim of a vicious pit bull attack. Once the dog attacks you and locks onto you, he's not letting go. The only way to get him off is to kill him. And that's pretty much how I was looking at it. The only way to get out of drug addiction was to die.
Despite the craving carved into his brain, Coleman was able to beat his addiction. And he did it in a way that has intrigued researchers. Coleman's legs were a casualty of a stray bullet in his drug-filled neighborhood. But this tragedy allowed him to make a surprising discovery. He was still using cocaine, but to calm his paralyzed but trembling legs, he began taking the common muscle relaxant baclofen. When he ran out of cocaine, he was surprised to find he no longer needed it.
As long as I was taking the baclofen, it was blocking my mind from thinking that I needed the drugs. It was blocking that part of me that thought about it and wanted it.
The baclofen appeared to be overriding the craving for cocaine etched into his brain. When Coleman reported his observations to Childress, she was intrigued by this homegrown scientific experiment.
So we offered him a PET scan in our usual hummingbird video, cocaine video, with the bet that on baclofen that we wouldn't see the hot spots lighting up in these areas that are important for anticipating reward. Sure enough, look, there are no hot spots. So for you watching the nature video, your brain didn't respond very much differently when you were watching the cocaine video. His two scans are identical, so the way that he looks at the nature video, the way he looks during the cocaine video, there are no hot spots. So it's really encouraging to us that his description of how he feels, that he doesn't feel pulled and that he feels as though everything's in a manageable range, really matches up with his brain. His brain agrees.
Baclofen may prove to be the first medication to actually curb the insatiable desire for cocaine. And it is now in early testing on addicts. But until medications are available to fight addiction, addicts will continue to struggle to overcome addiction on their own. Jesse and these other teenagers will spend anywhere from between 3 weeks to 3 months reclaiming their lives. And they have learned important lessons about how drugs have changed their brains.
I'm sitting here and I'm really dwelling on the fact that I'm an addict and I need help, and I'm not going to be able to do this by myself, and I need to do all the things that they teach me, and it's really hard. It's really hard. It's scary.
The disheartening reality is that 8 out of 10 addicts who leave rehab relapse and return to their addiction, sometimes after months and even years of sobriety.
I'm still terrified of relapse and just starting to use again. And that's actually, it's kind of good, because I'm less likely to go back out if I am scared to death of it.
You don't want it too tight, you just want it so the helmet's not moving around on you.
The last hurdle many of these teenagers will face before leaving rehab will be an aerial ropes course.
As you notice, there's 2 cables, one on each side, that suspend the ladder, the rungs, okay? You can't hold on to those.
Okay.
The only thing you can hold on to are those rungs and your partner.
This is not as easy as it looks.
Harnesses and that.
This graduation exercise symbolizes the challenge these teenagers face in beating their addictions after their brains have been distorted by drugs.
Pull. You got it, ladies. Nice job. Nice job.
A critical part of the brain has literally been hijacked by drugs of abuse. It's been rewired so that behavior is now focused on this life of obtaining and using drugs.
Communication is a key.
The behavior has become automatic, and the trick for the person who's recovering is to stop these automatic responses.
Look above you. What's above you? There you go.
What we attempt to do here is recruit other parts of your brain to diminish those improper messages. Knowing we can't eradicate them, we attempt to recruit other soldiers, all right? Other parts of the brain to help diminish those feelings.
Stand up. Let go of the rope. Use your partner to stand up.
If I had to guess, what we have to shore up is the prefrontal cortex. The critical functions of this prefrontal cortex, what we call executive function, self-control, the ability to literally have responsibility for oneself. And we can do that because their whole brain has not been overthrown by drugs of abuse.
Liz, all you've got to do is reach up, okay? Grab on to Chrissy.
Don't pull yet.
I've got you here on the rope, too.
No, don't let go of my hand, Chrissy.
You got it.
My greatest fear, which is climbing, and I worked through my greatest fear. I could do anything. I could do anything.
Adolescence is one of probably the most demanding times in life. You're learning how to function as a human in society. You're beginning to try and form partnerships and long-lasting friendships. You're becoming sexually aware.
And we know that leaving home, becoming an adult, having a family requires a number of much more complicated mental, psychological abilities.
And the organ of all of these changes in the way people think and emote and make judgments is, after all, their brains.